Alright, this is part 5, and we are going to be learning how to properly transform the chart since the chart is still aligned at the top. And we're also going to take a look at adding and removing elements into the charts. Okay, we're going to start fresh, and we're going to render an SVG. And let's go ahead and bring in a ref. Let's go ahead and give that ref a type of SVG element or null. Let's go ahead and assign that ref, and let's go ahead and bring in use state for to make our selection stateful. Let's bring in a use effect. And make sure you put in selection in the dependency array. Okay, so we're going to say if our selection has not been set, then go ahead and set that selection to the D3 selection. And we're going to pass in ref.current. Okay, let's go ahead and satisfy this type. We're going to go ahead and copy this, and it's either going to be null or the thing that we just copied, or the type that we just copied. Okay, make sure you import the selection type from D3 selection. Okay, cool. And now we're going to bring in some data. I already have some data already prepared for me, but you can go ahead and pause the video and copy this data if you so like. Or you can use any data you want. You can create your own. Okay, and we're going to put that into state, like so. And we don't need to put in a type because Typescript will automatically infer that for us. Okay. Let's go ahead and bring in our scales. Import scale linear. Let's go ahead and do this first so it's easy. Let's go ahead and import max as well from D3 array. Let's go ahead and make our scales. This is all just review. And our domain will be between 0 and okay, let's go ahead and make our range first. Our dimensions first. And so I'm not going to bring in any margins today. We learned that last video, but for the sake of time, let's just go ahead and make it just some dimensions. Right, width and height of 900 by 600. And the domain of our y will be the max of our data, and we're just going to pass in a compare function, and that will just return the units. Okay, and now since max has the it may return undefined, but since we know that it's not, I'm just going to bang it. Okay, our range will be between 0 and dimensions.height. Let's go ahead and create our band scale as well. The domain will be the mapped array of our elements, and we're just going to map out the name. Okay, and we're going to give it a range of our SVG width, which is 0 and dimensions.width. Okay, let's go ahead and construct our chart. since we do have the selection, we're going to go ahead and select all of the rectangles. We don't have any yet, but we will, and we're going to go ahead and join the data, go into the enter selection, and append our rectangles. Okay, we're going to give it some attributes. Width is the band scale's bandwidth. Our height, is our scale down unit. Our X is our band, we use our bandwidth for that, so it's D, and X, D dot name. Okay. Typescript complaining, since we know we're not going to run into errors, we're just going to bang that. And we are going to give it a fill color of orange. And make sure you, since the default height and width or dimensions for the SVG is 300 by 150, we do want to make it a little bit bigger, and we already have that set up, so okay. Okay, cool. So this is our review. We have gone this far already in previous videos. So let's go ahead and talk about translating these rectangles down to actually becoming bar charts. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and edit some code, and then I'm going to, after editing that code, I'm going to go ahead and visually explain it to you. First off, we're going to invert this. Instead of going from 0 to dimensions.height, we are going to go from dimensions.height to 0. And we are also going to introduce a new attribute similar to X, and this one's called Y. It does the same thing as X does, but in the Y axis. Okay, so how far along the Y axis it should be placed. And we are going to give it the scale down unit. Okay, and for the height, we are, instead of giving down the scale down unit, we are going to give the dimensions.height minus the scale down unit. Okay, let's go ahead and give it some padding. Okay, so let me go ahead and explain this. First off, we got, I'm going to give just an example domain and range. Say our domain is between 0 to 4,000, and that goes to the range of 400 to 0, just for the sake of simplicity. Okay, we have the Y attribute, which goes from, or which is set with dimensions. It's set with the scale down unit. So Y d dot units, and the height attribute is set with the height minus the scale down unit. Okay. Alright, so let's say I'm going to make our SVG container, and it goes from 0 to 400, and say it's 900, right? So in math, our origin is usually around here, right? 0, 0. But you have to think in terms of the DOM, which actually makes it 0 over here, right? So let's go ahead and write some coordinates. Here's 100. Here's about 200. Here's about 300. I'm writing with the mouse, so bear with me. It's not going to look very pretty. 400s are here. Okay, so let's give it an example domain, right? Let's say 3000, right? So if the range was between 0 to 400, the range output would be for 3000 would be 300, right? But since it's inverted, it's not 300, it's 100. So this is our y value for 3000, right? And then our height is 400, which is the height of the SVG, minus the minus the scale down unit, which is 100. So this would be 300 right here. Okay, this would be our bar chart. Another example, let's go ahead and give 1000. So 1000, our range would be 300, right? And then our height would be 400, which is the height of the SVG, minus the scale down unit, 300, so it's 100. Okay. I hope that visually explains it. Cool. All right. Now we are going to be talking about updating, adding and removing elements. So let's go ahead and write two functions. This one's going to be adding a random one, adding a random element, and this one's going to be removing. Let's go ahead and remove the last element of the array. Now to add a random element, we're going to go ahead and bring a random string generator. So you can add this library and the corresponding types. And what this library will do is just help us generate a random string. Okay, I already have it added. And we're just going to import it. Let's go ahead and make a new object that is our data to be added. Our name will be random string, and how you generate is just calling the generate function. And I think by default it gives you 14 characters that are randomly in a string that is randomly generated. Let's go ahead and just give it 10. And how you do that is just pass an integer of 10. Okay. We're going to go ahead and give it random units. Right? It's plural, right? It's units. Okay. And how you do this is we're going to floor a random number. And we're going to go ahead and give it a random number between 20 to 100. And if you don't know how to do that, it's max minus min plus the min. So 100 minus 20 is 80. Oh, not 800, it's 80 plus 20. And we're going to go ahead and set that into the data. Whoops. Okay. Let's go ahead and remove the last element, and how we do that is we're just going to slice it off. So if our data length equals 0, we're going to go ahead and just say return. If it isn't, we are going to slice our data. Yeah. And we're going to set that slice data into our data. Okay. Now we are going to bring in a new use effect, and this one is going to track our data. So this one is going to have data in its dependency array, and since we don't know if selection has been set yet, so we're going to have to call selection. and we're going to do our updating here. All right, so we're going to go ahead and change this to a let, because we are going to mutate it, right? Because if we are updating our charts, then obviously our scale is going to be our scales need to be updated, like the max and where the bars are going to be placed and as such. Okay, let's go ahead and save our selection into memory so we can later use it. We're going to go ahead and select all the rectangles. And we are going to join the data. Okay. So like our enter selection, we also have an exit selection, and if we have more DOM elements than we do in the data, then that will be contained in the exit selection. So how do we remove it? Well, it's simple. You just call remove. Okay. And we are also going to update the rectangle selection that is already in the DOM, since they need to accommodate and move for the added or removed rectangles. So rex, and how we do that is just go ahead and just give it the attributes. We also need to take care of the recs that need to be entered. Right? And we're just going to go ahead and give it the attributes as well. Okay. Now let's go ahead and render some buttons. Oops, I don't want that yet. And let's go ahead and give it the handlers. So cool. Cool. Yeah. All right. That's how you properly make a bar chart and how you update the chart as well. All right, next up, we're going to make it look a little bit more fancy, and we're going to introduce transitions, and that will be our last part. Okay, all right, I'll see you there.